here's the chart with all the numbers on it. As you can tell, it's a little bit all over the place. Well, mostly the high HP one, because the 100-meter Continuum ended up being quicker kill time than the 5-meter one. But that's just because there's double damage chance involved, and so there's going to be a bit of variance. In general, though, you can see a trend where the Overdriver takes a bit longer at higher distances than Continuum does, like relative to its base performance, and that's just because Overdriver has slower projectile speed by a relatively significant amount, to be honest. But neither one are particularly fast. With that said, in terms of kill time, for the most part, Overdriver outperforms Continuum. Now, obviously, once again, there's going to be double damage chances involved, and so there's some amount of luck that's going to be associated with that as well. But the other thing is that Overdriver can be used in such a way to where you are not starting from 0% burn, working your way up, because Overdriver, if you didn't know, gets more damage output the higher burn that it has. It has a damage boost that basically maxes out once the burn is at 50% or higher. So the ideal way to use it is just to burn it out to about that amount and then sort of feather it between 50 and 100% burn, just to make sure that you get the highest damage output possible. But here on this test anyway, we were starting at 0% burn, working our way up. Some of the times it didn't even work its way up to 50% burn, so it didn't even make use of the full damage potential. But of course, this isn't surprising, right? It's a sniper weapon versus an assault weapon. I think everyone kind of understands that Continuum, in essence, trades damage output for uptime. It has raw uptime, no reload speed, essentially infinite magazine, and so because of that, it has a slightly lower damage output. The question is this infinite magazine actually worth using? Is that enough benefit to actually be worth tanking your damage output slightly? And I would have to say probably not, at least not to mech. The weapon itself seems pretty mid. There's really no mech that can adequately take advantage of an infinite magazine weapon. There are mechs that can take advantage of really high magazine weapons, but that's not quite the same. A really high magazine weapon would be like Minigun, which has way more damage output, and a nearly infinite magazine, depending on what you're doing, 20 seconds of firing with that DPS. In a lot of cases, it's a lot of damage output. It may as well be infinite ammo. So, is it worth using Continuum? I'm not quite so sure. I think it is an interesting weapon, but I would say the RPM is maybe a little bit too low. Chewing through multi-layered shields is not particularly easy, but in general, it would seem to me that there's really no point in using a weapon like this with infinite ammo, unless perhaps you were using it in tandem with another person who had a similar ability. Like, let's say you both have shield abilities, like Aegis. You can alternate with who places their Aegis dome down, and you can, in essence, get an infinite dome shield out of that as long as you have two players tag teaming, which would create an infinite scenario, or a scenario in which an infinite uptime weapon could be useful. But even then, you're not very mobile while you're doing that, so you couldn't really relocate or reposition very effectively. You could try it with Panther as well, which might do better, but it's hard to say. But generally speaking, all mech abilities have some amount of time that they're useful and some amount of time that they're not useful, or just mechs in general. A lot of people, I think, conflate the usefulness of Revoker with the fact that it basically has infinite ammo. That's not the reason that Revoker is so good. It's because the DPS is so high. Anything that would normally use Revoker, like let's say Surge, it's going to hide and wait until there's a good time to use its ability, and then it's going to, ambush you, EMP you, and then fire at you until you're dead. With Revoker, that's really easy because it has a stupid amount of damage output, but you could use anything with a stupid amount of damage output. The thing that makes Revoker good is not the fact that it has infinite ammo, because it doesn't actually need the infinite ammo, it doesn't utilize it in any way. because it's hiding in the back sometimes, waiting for its ability, right? Waiting for an optimal time to use its ability, or just waiting for the ability to cool down. So there's no practical use, as of right now, that I can think of for an infinite ammo weapon, outside of just the fact that you don't have to worry about reloading, so it's just like an extra useful thing. It's nice, but I don't think having that as your main feature is worth reducing your damage output for. Possibly there are some 32 energy mechs that could make good use of it, so I'd have to try it on some of those, like once the 16 eventually arrives, but in general, I don't know. I would say that it's probably just kind of not a bad weapon, but it's just a kind of irrelevant weapon. There's no real need to use it on anything. Like, you may as well. It seems pretty objectively worse than other weapons. It seems like there's other weapons that would just kind of objectively do better on any mech that you could think of. So there's no real reason to use it. But with that said, it's not bad. It's one of the better weapons that they've released in the past, like, 3 months or so. Like, there's been a lot of really bad weapons lately, and this one's not the worst, so there's that too. But I'm curious to know what you guys think. Whether or not you think it is a good weapon, or whether or not you think it's just kind of meh. Anyway, y'all, that will be it for me. Appreciate y'all. Take care.